Darkness. It's a word that makes most people uncomfortable. We avoid it, we deny it, and we try to bury it under fake smiles and polite conversations. That Carl Jung once said, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. Think about that for a moment. We live in a world where everyone is wearing a mask of confidence, a mask of kindness, a mask of perfection. But behind every mask lies the same thing: shadows. Shadows of fear, anger, jealousy, insecurity, and pain. The truth is, you cannot truly understand another human being until you have dared to look into your own shadow. Why? Because until you meet your own demons, you will always be shocked, offended, or disturbed by the demons in others. Imagine this. You meet someone who constantly lies. It triggers you, it frustrates you. But ask yourself, do you not also lie? Maybe not in the same way. Maybe your lies are small, I'm fine, when you're not. Or pretending to be happy when you're breaking inside. When you recognize your own capacity for dishonesty, you stop being naive. You stop being surprised. You begin to see people clearly. Not as monsters, but as mirrors. This is the heart of shadow work. Your own darkness is not a curse, it's a teacher. It's the only map that can help you navigate the hidden darkness in others. Jung believed that the human psyche is like a house. The top floor is the conscious self, the part of you that you show to the world. But the basement, that's the shadow. And most people keep the basement locked, dusty, ignored. But here's the problem. The more you ignore your basement, the louder the noises come from it. And one day, the door bursts open. Your shadow holds everything you don't want to admit about yourself. Your selfishness, your envy, your rage, but also your creativity, your power, your raw life force. The shadow is not just evil, it's energy. And if you don't know your own shadow, it will control you. Have you ever noticed how people who claim to be the nicest often have the darkest explosions of anger? That's the shadow at work. Repressed emotions do not die. They wait, and they return. Stronger, darker, and more destructive. This is why Jung said, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. Because once you've looked into your own shadow, you stop being naive. You stop expecting humans to be angels. Instead, you accept them as they are, flawed, complex, contradictory. And this acceptance gives you power. Think of it like this. If you know that you are capable of hate, then when you see hate in others, you don't collapse. You don't panic. You simply nod and say, yes, I know that force. I've met it inside myself. This doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong. Because now, instead of reacting blindly, you can respond with wisdom. The people who fear their own darkness are often the most judgmental. They condemn others because they secretly condemn themselves. But the person who has made peace with their own demons is free. They don't need to attack because they understand. They don't need to hate because they see through. So the real question is not, how do I deal with difficult people? The real question is, how well do I know my own shadow? When Jung spoke of darkness, he didn't mean some supernatural force outside of you. He meant the raw, unfiltered truths about yourself that you spend your whole life trying to hide. Think of it like this. Every child is born whole. But as we grow up, society starts giving us rules. Don't be angry. Don't cry. Don't be selfish. Don't talk too much. Don't be too quiet. Slowly, parts of us get pushed away. We hide them in the basement of our psyche. That basement is the shadow. And here's the tragic part. The very parts we hide are often the ones we need the most. A child who is told, "Don't be angry," grows up repressing rage. But that same rage, if understood, could become passion, courage, and drive. A child who is told, "Don't be selfish," learns to please everyone. But that selfishness, if accepted, could become self-respect and boundaries. This is why Jung's wisdom is so powerful. Only by confronting your own shadow can you truly handle the shadows of others. Otherwise, you'll keep projecting. Projection. It's a key concept in psychology. It means throwing your unwanted qualities onto someone else. You deny your greed, so you see everyone else as greedy. You deny your jealousy, so you see others as envious. You deny your cruelty, so you believe others are cruel. In reality, the thing you hate most in others usually lives inside you. Let me tell you a story. There was once a man who prided himself on being honest. He hated liars. He would lecture people on the importance of truth. But deep inside he lied constantly. He lied to his wife about his feelings. He lied to himself about his failures. And because he couldn't admit his own lies, he projected that hatred onto everyone around him. For him, the whole world was full of liars. That's projection. And the only cure is shadow work. When you recognize your own dishonesty, suddenly liars no longer shock you. They may annoy you, but you see through them. You understand them. Because you've already seen the liar inside yourself. And in that moment, their darkness loses power over you. This is the gift of self-knowledge. It transforms your relationships. You stop expecting perfection. You stop demanding purity. Instead, you start seeing people as they are, broken but human. And strangely enough, this makes you compassionate. Not weak compassion, where you excuse every toxic behavior, but strong compassion, where you understand darkness without letting it consume you. Carl Jung often warned that people who reject their shadow are dangerous. Why? Because what you deny controls you. What you repress leaks out. And the darker it is, the more violently it erupts. Think of the priest who preaches purity but secretly falls into scandal. Think of the politician who condemns corruption but is secretly corrupt. Think of the friend who always acts nice but one day explodes with rage. These are not accidents. These are shadows breaking free. The people who terrify us are not the ones who know their darkness. They are the ones who pretend they don't have any. But imagine the opposite. A man who says, "Yes, I am capable of anger, but I know it. I've worked with it." That man will not scare you, because his anger is integrated, controlled, transformed. This is the essence of power. Not the fake power of domination, but the deep power of self-mastery. Because the man who has faced his demons cannot be blackmailed by them. The woman who has accepted her flaws cannot be manipulated through shame. The individual who has embraced their shadow cannot be destroyed by it. This is why shadow work is not optional. It's survival. In a world where everyone is projecting, judging, and hiding, the one who knows themselves stands tall. So how do you begin? The first step is nesty, brutal, uncomfortable honesty. Ask yourself, what qualities in others trigger me the most? Then ask, where do these qualities live in me? You will be shocked by the answers. But in that shock lies liberation. The second step is observation. Watch your emotions. When envy rises, don't deny it. Name it. When anger explodes, don't bury it. Feel it. When fear takes over, don't run. Face it. Your emotions are not enemies. They are signals. Every shadow emotion is pointing to something deeper. Envy points to desire. Anger points to boundaries. Fear points to vulnerability. The final step is integration. Don't try to kill your shadow. That is impossible. Instead, give it a voice. Talk to it. Learn from it. When you integrate your shadow, it becomes your ally. Remember, the goal is not to become pure light. That's a fantasy. The goal is to become whole. A human who can walk in both light and darkness without losing balance. This is why Jung's words remain timeless. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. Because when you know your darkness, you no longer fear theirs. And when fear dies, wisdom begins. Most people live their lives running away from themselves. They run into distractions, endless scrolling, fake relationships, addictions, status games, anything to avoid sitting alone with their own thoughts. Why? Because silence makes the shadow speak, and when the shadow speaks, the truth comes out. Carl Jung believed that true growth begins when you stop running, when you finally sit down and face the monster in the mirror. At first, it's terrifying. You see the jealousy, the rage, the bitterness, the selfishness. You see the wounds you've been ignoring since childhood. You see the parts of you that are ugly, raw, and unacceptable. But then something strange happens. The monster begins to shrink. Not because it disappears, but because you finally understand it. You realize your rage was born from injustice. Your jealousy was born from longing. Your selfishness was born from neglect. Your fear was born from pain. Every shadow has a story. And when you listen to that story, the shadow becomes less of a demon and more of a wounded child. This is why Jung insisted that shadow work is not just psychology, it's soul work. It requires courage, humility, and patience. Think about your own life. How many relationships have been destroyed because someone refused to face their shadow? A husband projects his insecurities onto his wife, accusing her of betrayal when he himself cannot be loyal. A friend gets jealous of your success, not because you harmed them, but because they deny their own desire for growth. A boss humiliates his employees, not because they're incompetent, but because deep inside he feels powerless. All of these are shadows, unacknowledged, unintegrated, and unleashed onto others. And here is where Jung's teaching becomes practical. If you want to deal with toxic people, you must first deal with your own toxicity. If you want to survive in a world full of projection, you must stop projecting yourself. Imagine you are calm, grounded, and aware of your shadow. When someone insults you, instead of instantly exploding, you ask, "Why does this trigger me? Which wound is being touched?" That moment of awareness separates you from blind reaction. It gives you choice. It gives you power. This is how leaders are made, not by pretending to be perfect, but by mastering their own imperfection. Now let's go deeper into Jung's idea of individuation. Individuation means becoming whole. It's the process of uniting your conscious self with your unconscious self. It's the journey of saying, yes, I am light, and I am dark. I am kind, and I am cruel. I am weak, and I am strong. Wholeness is not about choosing sides. It's about embracing contradictions. You cannot be truly compassionate until you admit your capacity for cruelty. You cannot be truly strong until you admit your capacity for weakness. You cannot be truly wise until you admit your capacity for foolishness. Only then do you become real, and people feel it. They sense your authenticity. Because unlike the fake masks society wears, you are not pretending. This is why the deepest people you'll ever meet often have a mysterious aura. They are not afraid of the dark. They have walked through it. They have touched the fire and survived, and that survival gives them a presence that no book, no degree, no title can ever give. But let's be clear, individuation is not easy. It is a lifelong process, and most people never attempt it. They choose the comfort of denial over the pain of growth. And that is why society is filled with chaos, because people who cannot handle their own darkness will always spill it onto others. Think about this. Wars are not started by people who have mastered their shadow. Wars are started by people projecting their insecurities, fears, and greed onto entire nations. Hatred is not spread by people who have faced their inner wounds. It is spread by people who refuse to heal and instead blame others. Even in families, cycles of trauma continue because parents who never faced their shadows unconsciously pass them down to their children. This is why Jung's insight is more than just self-help. It's survival for humanity. If enough people embraced their darkness, the world would look very different. Less judgment, less projection, less cruelty, more understanding, more authenticity, more healing. But let's bring this back to you. Right now, you have two choices. You can keep ignoring your shadow, letting it control you in secret, or you can begin the journey of self-awareness. And here's the truth. The second path is painful, but it is also liberating. You stop living in fear of being exposed because you've already exposed yourself to yourself. You stop being controlled by triggers because you know where they come from. You stop being shocked by darkness in others because you have already faced the darkness in yourself. That is freedom. That is strength. That is the path of individuation. So the next time you catch yourself hating someone for being arrogant, greedy, or selfish, pause. Look within. Ask yourself, where does this live in me? And instead of fighting it, accept it. Not to indulge it, but to integrate it. Because in the end, you don't conquer the shadow by fighting it. You conquer the shadow by befriending it. And when you do, the darkness of other people no longer overwhelms you. It simply reveals itself as what it always was. A mirror. Everyone talks about facing the shadow, but very few explain how to actually do it. Jung himself gave clues, but never a clear step-by-step manual. Why? Because shadow work is not a formula. It's a confrontation, and confrontation looks different for everyone. But there are methods, practical ways to bring the shadow into light. Let's break them down. Step 1. Radical self-honesty. The first step is brutal honesty with yourself. Not the fake kind, where you list your weaknesses just to look humble, but the kind where you admit the thoughts you're ashamed to even whisper. For example, do you feel happy when others fail? Admit it. Do you secretly crave control over people? Admit it. Do you get jealous when your friend succeeds? Admit it. This is not about morality. This is about truth. Because what you refuse to admit becomes the very weapon your shadow uses against you. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Step 2. Watch your triggers. Your shadow always reveals itself when you're triggered. That moment when someone says something and you feel a sudden surge of anger, envy, or insecurity, that is the shadow speaking. For example, if arrogance in others makes you furious, maybe you haven't admitted your own hunger for recognition. If dishonesty disgusts you, maybe you haven't faced your own small lies. If someone's success makes you bitter, maybe you've abandoned your own potential. The shadow hides in projection. So the next time you're triggered, instead of pointing outward, turn inward. Ask yourself, what is this reaction teaching me about myself? Step 3. Shadow journaling. Here's a practical exercise. Take a notebook and write down every emotion that makes you uncomfortable. Write the moments you felt jealous, angry, bitter, or petty. Then ask, what does this reveal about me? Over time, you'll see patterns. And those patterns are the fingerprints of your shadow. At first it feels ugly. But remember, the purpose is not to shame yourself. It's to understand yourself. Because understanding brings control. Step 4. Embrace the opposite. Jung taught a powerful method called the integration of opposites. If you think you are only kind, admit your capacity for cruelty. If you see yourself as disciplined, admit your laziness. If you see yourself as confident, admit your insecurity. Every strength has a shadow, and until you embrace the opposite, you are not whole. This doesn't mean you act out cruelty, laziness, or insecurity. It means you admit they exist in you, so they don't control you in secret. Step 5. Active imagination. One of Jung's favorite techniques was called active imagination. It's like dreaming while awake. You sit quietly, close your eyes and visualize your shadow. Maybe it appears as a dark figure, a monster, or even as yourself. Then you talk to it. You ask it questions. What do you want from me? Why are you here? What are you trying to teach me? At first it feels strange, even crazy. But this is how the unconscious communicates, through images, symbols, and stories. And if you're brave enough to listen, your shadow will reveal secrets about your deepest fears and desires. Step 6. Face the mirror in relationships. Your relationships are mirrors. Every person you hate, love, admire, or resent is showing you a piece of yourself. That's why shadow work is not just personal, it's social. The people who annoy you the most are your greatest teachers. They trigger your wounds because they reflect your hidden side. Instead of cutting them off immediately, pause. Ask, what part of me are they showing me? This doesn't mean you should tolerate abuse, but it does mean you can use relationships as a battlefield for our growth. Modern examples of the shadow. Let's bring this into today's world. Think about social media. Why are people obsessed with cancel culture? Because calling out the sins of others distracts them from facing their own. Projection in real time broadcasted globally. Think about influencer culture. Why are people addicted to likes, validation, and attention? Because their shadow is screaming for recognition, and they try to silence it with external approval. Think about politics. Why do leaders demonize their opponents so aggressively? Because it's easier to project their own corruption onto the enemy than to face it within themselves. Everywhere you look, the shadow is at work. And unless you learn to recognize it, you will keep being manipulated by it, both in yourself and in others. The dark gift of shadow work. Here's the paradox. The more you face your darkness, the more light you gain. When you accept your anger, you gain passion. When you accept your jealousy, you gain ambition. When you accept your fear, you gain awareness. The very emotions you try to bury are the same ones that hold your greatest power. Shadow work transforms poison into medicine, but only if you're willing to drink it. The ultimate choice. At the end of the day, shadow work comes down to a simple choice. Do you want to live as a prisoner of your unconscious, controlled by triggers, projections, and hidden wounds? Or do you want to walk the harder path, the path of integration, authenticity, and true freedom? Because here's the truth. Ignoring the shadow doesn't make it go away. It only makes it stronger. But the moment you turn around, face it and say, I see you. I accept you. You are part of me. That's the moment the shadow loses its chains. That's the moment you become whole. And in a world where everyone is busy pretending, wholeness is the rarest power of all. We've talked about the personal shadow, the hidden basement inside your psyche. But Jung didn't stop there. He believed that just as individuals have shadows, entire societies do too. This is what he called the collective shadow. It's not just your darkness. It's the darkness of humanity itself. The violence, greed, corruption, and cruelty that repeats again and again throughout history. Think about wars, genocides, systems of oppression. Do you really believe these horrors come only from evil people? Or are they the result of a collective shadow, a mass denial of human darkness? When people refuse to face their own demons, those demons gather in the collective unconscious. And when enough people repress the same shadow, it erupts, not in one person, but in millions. That's how entire nations fall into madness. That's how propaganda spreads. That's how ordinary people commit extraordinary evil. Carl Jung saw this in his own time during the rise of Nazi Germany. He said, "The darker the shadow, the denser it is in the unconscious, The more it is denied, the more it controls us. This is not ancient history. Look around today. Social media outrage, cancel culture, tribalism. It's the collective shadow in action. People don't just project their personal darkness onto others. Societies project their unresolved guilt and pain onto scapegoats. It could be minorities, it could be immigrants, it could be political opponents, but the pattern is the same. It's not me, it's them. They are the problem. And yet, the darkness doesn't disappear. It only grows stronger. This is why Jung emphasized archetypes, universal patterns of the human psyche. The hero, the villain, the wise old man, the shadow. These archetypes live in all of us, shaping how we act, dream, and create stories. Why do we love superhero movies? Why do myths and legends across cultures share the essay, me patterns? Because they reflect the archetypes inside us. Batman is not just Batman. He is our inner struggle between justice and vengeance. Darth Vader is not just a villain. He is the shadow that seduces us when we crave power. The archetypes remind us the battle of light and darkness is not out there. It is inside every single one of us. The real danger is not the villain you see on TV. The real danger is the villain you refuse to see in yourself. This is why true maturity is not about pretending to be pure. It is about recognizing that you contain both the angel and the demon, both the creator and the destroyer. And only by admitting this can you choose wisely. When you deny your inner darkness, you risk becoming its puppet. But when you face it, when you say, yes, I have this rage, this greed, this envy, you take back control. You no longer need to project your shadow onto others. You can meet people as they are, without illusion. And here lies Jung's deepest wisdom. The world will always be full of darkness, but your power lies in how you respond to it. If you have never faced your own darkness, then every act of cruelty in the world will shock you, trigger you, break you. But if you have walked through your own shadow, then when the world shows its ugliness, you will not collapse. You will stand, you will understand, and you will be ready. So here we are. We've traveled through the shadow, from the hidden basement of your own mind to the collective darkness of entire societies. And the truth is clear. You cannot escape the shadow. You can only choose how to deal with it. Carl Jung's insight was radical. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. Why? Because when you meet your own inner demons, you stop being surprised by theirs. Think about it. When someone betrays you, manipulates you, or lashes out at you, if you've never confronted betrayal, manipulation, or rage within yourself, you will be shocked, broken, helpless. But if you have faced your own capacity for those same things, you will not crumble. You will understand. You will respond, not from naivety, but from wisdom. This is the essence of dark psychology. It's not about becoming a monster. It's about recognizing that you could be one and choosing not to. It's about saying, yes, I could lie. I could cheat. I could manipulate. I could destroy. But I won't. Not because I'm too weak, but because I am strong enough to face that part of me and keep it in check. Weak people deny their darkness. Strong people own it. And the strongest people are those who can look into the abyss of their soul without flinching and still choose the light. But here's the paradox. When you accept your shadow, you also stop fearing it in others. You see through their masks. You understand their games. You stop being manipulated by guilt or fear because you recognize the same patterns inside yourself. That's why shadow work is not just spiritual therapy. It's a survival skill. It makes you immune to manipulation. It makes you resistant to psychological warfare. It makes you unshakable in a world built on illusions. Most people are sleepwalking through life, projecting their darkness onto everyone else. They say, "I am the good one. They are evil." And so they fight endless wars, destroy relationships, and repeat the same cycles. But the awakened one, the person who has met their shadow, sees through the game. They know, I contain both good and evil. So do you. The question is not who is pure. The question is, who has the courage to admit it? This is where transformation begins. This is where real power is born. Not the power to dominate others, but the power to master yourself. So the next time you look into the mirror, don't just admire the face you present to the world. Look deeper. Look into the eyes of the stranger hiding behind you, the one who whispers your darkest thoughts, the one who tempts you in silence. That is your shadow. And if you dare to meet it, to listen, to understand, it will not destroy you. It will complete you. Because here's the ultimate secret. The shadow is not your enemy. It is your teacher. It is the part of you that holds your strength, your creativity, your raw life force. Buried under the darkness is the very fire you need to become whole. Carl Jung wasn't warning us away from the shadow. He was guiding us toward it, toward wholeness, toward maturity, toward freedom. So remember this. You cannot fight darkness by pretending to be pure. You fight darkness by knowing it, owning it, and transforming it into light. The people who change the world are not the ones who deny their demons. They are the ones who master them. And maybe, just maybe, that is the task life has given you. Not to be perfect, not to be innocent, but to be whole, to walk with your shadow at your side, to see the darkness in others, and instead of collapsing, to stand taller, to be the one who understands what others are too afraid to face. Because only when you know your own darkness can you truly deal with the darkness of other people.